Hi, Manas. I think we can begin the session now. Meanwhile, people will keep on joining us.
Hey, hi
So,
everyone.
hi, welcome, Manas. Thanks a lot for taking out time and conducting this session for Pragmatic Leaders. Welcome everyone to this Product Talk series by Pragmatic Leaders. We are glad to see you all here. Before we start today's session, I would like to take a moment and introduce you about Pragmatic Leaders. At Pragmatic Leaders, you all are part of global family of aspirational professionals who proactively help each other and are invested in each other's career growth. At Pragmatic Leaders, we offer pay after placement program in product management for working professionals who are looking to transition into product roles and for professionals who are looking to upskill in product management. For more details, you can check out our website. I have already added link in the chat section. With that note, let's begin the session. So today we have Manas with us. As we all know, he is working with Samsung right now, and he has more than a decade of experience in spanning e-commerce, digital health, consulting, and technology domains. And today we'll be discussing gamification with him. So yes, welcome and thank you, Manas, for joining.
Thanks, Piyush. Thanks for the intro. Um, so, Piyush, just to understand, so how are we going to do this? We're going to first do a presentation and then the Q&A, or
Right.
you want to keep it open in some ways?
I think we can start with the presentation session, and
Sure.
if we have few questions, we can
Uh,
go through them. Otherwise,
yeah,
we can
maybe
keep it
we'll
after.
take a pause in between and look at some of the questions,
Yes,
and then
sure, sure.
again continue that.
Right.
So this will probably take 30-35 minutes. Uh,
Okay.
Also, because I can't see a lot of people, I really don't know how, the feedback from the user. So if you feel at any time that I'm going too slow or too fast, please let me know so that, I can change the pace or, slow down or go fast based on that.
Yes, definitely.
Sure. Okay. I will get started. I'll share my screen. So, okay. Okay, so I hope everyone can see the screen.
Yes.
I will. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and good morning to people who are in other time zones. And let's get started. So, this is today. We will essentially discuss about gamification, but from a product manager's point of view. So, gamification can be discussed from different perspectives, but this is primarily from a product manager, product leader's point of view. So that's how I'll be doing this. Again, few things that before we get on to it. So please understand that whatever I discuss today is my interpretation of what I have learned. So please take it with a pinch of salt. Please trust and verify at your end. With that in mind, let's get on with it. So just to share a little bit about myself, I'm an engineer with an MBA. Nothing unusual about it. However, over a period of time, I have developed interest in what we today call applied psychology, behavioral science, gamification. So they're all kind of related terms, related stuff that has grown importance over a period of time. So that's been something which is my interest area last 1 to 2 years. Currently, I work at Samsung e-commerce in India. Previously, I had worked with in tech dev, in consulting, startups like Jibong and few digital health, funded healthcare startups. And then as of now, I'm in Samsung. By nature, I'm an introvert. I'm a reader and a Big Bang Theory fan. So maybe we should talk about that sometime in the future also. With that, we will get on to the agenda for today. So this is what the next hour would look like. We will talk about games. So what is it about games that makes it interesting? What is it about games that make us play? Any games in general. Uh, from there, we will try to understand and discuss what is gamification, uh, and what is gamification from a product manager's point of view. We will also discuss some of the behavior models. So this is essentially theory behind the, uh, but I think that is really important to understand the basics. And then probably we'll have a better grip of the subject. Uh, then we'll get on to the main thing of today's presentation, which is the Octalysis framework. Octalysis framework is nothing but one more model which we will talk about in detail. We will analyze an experience using Octalysis. In this entire presentation, what I have done is I've tried to pick and choose experience from Indian context so that it is uh, understood better, so that we can connect to it better. But in some of the cases, it is not there. Hence, I have stuck to other examples. And finally, the Q&A. So what we won't be doing today is designing an experience from scratch, which is a 5-step, very elaborate process using Octalysis. Maybe we'll park it for some other time. Okay, so Piyush, anything else that you want to you want to share in between? All okay with the
Yes,
house?
I think yes. Everything is good. We can
Okay,
continue.
great. So let's start with games, right? So essentially, why people play games? Uh, we have all played in games in the past. We are still playing games. It could be in the real world. It could be in the virtual world. And the thing is, everyone is a gamer, right? And the question today is, the question that I want to address here is that why people play games. You invest so much of your time. If you take that time and probably invest in something else, probably you would have gotten something in return. Maybe if you look at your school life or college, probably you would have gotten better marks, right? Still, you didn't choose to do that. You chose to play a game with your time. You invested your time that way. You had a reward in front of you, which is better marks, better rank, better score. However, you played the game because you liked it. So the question is, why did we invest our time doing something which apparently didn't lead to anything, apparently didn't lead to any reward as such? And also, if you are looking at the current gaming industry, and this is only the mobile and the PC online gaming industry, which is worth $160 billion in 2020. The COVID gave it a huge push. However, think of it that customers are paying $160 billion to the gaming companies in order to play a game, in order to invest their time in it. Instead, they could have done something rewarding, which they are not doing. They have chosen this. And the question is why, right? So let's try to unravel that. Okay, thank you for the comment. Okay, so let's try to unravel what are there in a game. And you can think of, while you are talking about it, you can think of any game that you like, and you will most probably find all of these elements in a game that you like. You can think of a game of cricket. The IPL is coming soon. Or you can think of any game that you connect with, right? It could be a game, a real life game, meaning could be a cricket or a football, or a indoor game, could be chess, Scrabble, anything, right? So a game has score, right? So you have a score which tells you where you are in the game. It tells you who is doing good, who is doing not so good. It gives you a sense of progression, that okay, and it gives you a feedback that okay, you have played this shot and this is what you get, right? You get a 4 run. And okay, the second thing is, a game has rules. uh, Without rules, uh, the rules create constraints, the rules create boundary, the rules create uh, a way of strategizing the game through, right? So if, because there are certain rules, in cricket there is a slog over, right? So you play a game, you play a 50 over cricket in certain way because of the certain rules that people have put in, fielding restrictions that they put in the first 6-10 overs or so. It's Any game is also a game of skill. The it could be a variation, meaning in some game there is a lot of skills required, some game it is less of skill required, but there is a sense, there is a level of skill that is required to play a game. uh, Also a game is there's also a lot of luck factor or a chance factor, and that makes a game so much more interesting, that makes a game turn around in a matter of seconds. A game is also social. In most of the games that we play, even if it is a single player game, we're still playing with someone else. And even if it is a mobile game, you are playing with your friend. It's a team game anyway, it's social. And the last but not the least, it's a glory, right? So the winning is a glory, and also you could also give up your trophy to someone based on certain occasions, and that's how you also get to glory. So these are some of the elements of the game, and there could be more, but I have chosen this for our discussion today. What does these elements do in a game, right? uh, we have What it does is it creates engagement. It creates engagement for the players, it creates engagement for the audience, if there is any in a game. When it comes to products, it creates retention. Also, when it comes to games, it creates retention, because there are many games where people are playing for years, right? There are also experiences where people are, so if you're a customer of, say, Amazon, you are a customer of Amazon for so long, so a high amount of retention is seen. And finally, a revenue for whoever is running the game. There is revenue at the end of it. So now from games we are moving to gamification. This is Dilbert's. I always think that Dilbert, anything which is to do with jargon, you should always go to Dilbert and see what is there. Dilbert is talking about with respect to gamification. So essentially, what it talks about is that the suggestion is from the HR is that let's give badges, ribbons, and some awards for instead of appraisal, which is also some part of a reward. And uh, because it doesn't create value, and if you see this, it doesn't create value. It doesn't create value for the employees as such. And so that's how this is an irony of gamification, implementation of gamification, where we think that we can just slap in some badges, slap in some points, slap in a leaderboard, etc., and then create an experience. It doesn't work that way, and that is a note of caution as we move ahead. So a lot of gamification definition, you would see where it talks about adding game elements or game mechanics in your product, and you achieve gamification. So just to be clear, what is a game mechanic? So as we were saying in the previous slide, so points, badges is or ribbons, which we are talking, which we saw is a game mechanic, right? So, and this is a game mechanic. This is called a game mechanic because it comes from the world of games, right? You take those and you add into a product, so you are adding game mechanics in your product. And the thing is, a definition sometimes says that you add game mechanics in your product and you achieve gamification. However, there is a lot of nuance to that. I think there is a lot of nuance to this definition. And I would want to take it this way, that you add game mechanics in your product to affect user behavior. Again, I still think that is not complete. Though you have affected user behavior, you have taken that one more step. Uh, I would like to believe the definition that I would refer to is you add game mechanics to your product to affect user behavior in order to achieve business metrics. So when you're thinking of gamification, don't start with gamification. You always start with business metrics, because those are your primary goal. And then you start thinking about user behavior or desired actions which can lead to those business metrics. So a desired action could be for a very e-retail perspective, adding a product to a cart, right? So that's a desired action which would lead to a sale. Uh, and then you start thinking about, okay, if that is the user behavior or desired action, what would motivate my user to what would be the motivation for my user to add product to a cart? And then once you have once you have that sorted, then you think of game mechanics, that what kind of game mechanics would create those motivation for the user to take those actions, and then finally you arrive at a right business matrix. So game mechanics, just so, and this is an important takeaway from today's discussion. And if you're not taking away anything, probably this is the this is the thing to take away. Game mechanics is not gamification. Gamification is much more than that. Also, adding games in your product is not gamification. Uh, there are, you would see people have added games in their product that creates engagement for sure. People have added fantasy games, but the product has nothing to do with the fantasy games. That creates, people spend time in that, but they're not anyway connected to your business matrix. That not anyway connected to the user desired actions, and hence games is not, adding games in your product is not gamification. So essentially, gamification is all about human focused design, right? Uh, you look at, so you start, and there are a lot of terminologies which if you get into this, you will start hearing a lot of terminologies. You would hear about applied psychology. People will talk about behavioral science. People talk about behavioral economics. Uh, all of these come together. Also, people talk about gamification. So all of these comes together to create an experience. So don't look at gamification when you are implementing or thinking about gamification into your product. Look at it overall. Look at the user. Keep the user in mind. Keep the business metrics in mind. Keep the user motivation in mind, and then design. Uh, then design the rest of it. Okay, so now we will get into okay, let me check if there are any questions at this time. Okay, thank you for the suggestions. Yeah, so one of the question was, is the session inspired by the works of Yukai Chao? Yes, that's true. We are talking about octalysis, so that's what Yukai Chao has been propagating for quite some time. That's true. Thanks for more comments. Gamification adds stickiness to the product. Absolutely. Design thinking, human-centered design. Absolutely. Business metrics example. Yeah. So any metrics that you're looking at. So you are trying to look at, increasing time spent on your app or website. If that's a metric that you are trying to look at. You are trying to look at increasing, say, subscription of a particular subscription product. That's a business metric. Yeah, metrics like reducing return percentage of orders. Yes, absolutely. You could take all of that as metrics to improve or to work upon using gamification.
Manas, just one quick question. I hope it's okay to speak questions as well, or should we use chat?
Yes, yes, you can speak.
Please, it's open.
Just a small query. You mentioned game mechanics is not gamification. What are we exactly referring to when we say game mechanics?
Yes. So game mechanics is what has happened over a period of time is that people look at games and they take up a specific mechanic in a game. So let me give you an example. Uh, so there are games, and if you have played a lot of games, you will see there is a mechanic called say a group quest, right? So in a group quest, what happens is you collaborate with others for a quest, and the quest could be anything, right? Quest could be a reward. Quest could be you are fighting another army. So you group together, people come together, and then then fight or then try to get the reward, right? So that group quest is a game mechanic. Similarly, a leaderboard is a game mechanic. So what is a leader? I mean, a very simple game mechanic is leaderboard. So leaderboard is essentially, suppose, let's take an example that for a particular company, they want to run a sale for a period of a month, and they create a leaderboard that whoever buys more stuff gets up on the leaderboard and then gets to win, say, whatever, a large reward. So you take up a lead, you put up a leaderboard on your website or on your app where constantly people see who are the top 10, and you can see where you are, right? So that motivates your behavior. So a leaderboard is a game mechanic, for example. Did I answer that?
Yes, Manas. I was simultaneously also Googling it, so that makes
Sure.
complete sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Google always is better. Okay, so with that, let's look at the behavior model. So behavior models is essentially some amount of theory, but we will try and look at the model and then try to look at where we can put this in our product. So BJ Fogg's behavior model, this is one of the most common models, and a lot of models in future, and a lot of people who have written a lot of and contributed to this field uh, take inspiration from this model. And this is very, very basic in terms of understanding what behavior is. So according to BJ Fogg, behavior happens when you have motivation, ability, and triggers at the same moment. To be very clear, the word trigger has now been removed, and he has added, instead of trigger, he has added prompts. But for all practical purposes, it's the same thing. So trigger it's a prompt, it's a cue, whatever you call it, right? And what he talks about is motivation, ability, and prompt, or motivation, ability, and trigger coming together to make a behavior happen. And uh, the to understand what is motivation and what is ability, he himself has given a very good example. In short, what he says is a phone rings, but you did not take the call, right? So, and what could be the reason that you did not take the call? One set of reason could be that you were away from the device, you were away showering, you were away in your kitchen, you couldn't come when the phone was ringing. The second set of reasons could be that, yes, you saw the phone ring, but the phone was from some number where you didn't want to talk. It was probably a spam call. It was probably call from someone who you don't want to talk to at this point. Maybe it's from your boss. So the first is ability. You did not have the ability uh, to attend to the call, right? So that's ability. Motivation is, yes, you had the ability, you looked up on your device, but there was no motivation to answer your call. And the trigger is the ring, right? So that's a very you can say a mind map to help you always remember what is ability, what is motivation, and what is a trigger. So now, if you see this thing, what it essentially talks about is, if your motivation is high and it is your ability of doing that activity is easy, then obviously a behavior happens. So that is the top right corner. If the motivation is low and it is very hard to do, nothing happens. I mean, even if there are a lot of triggers, nothing happens. So to give you an example, you might be getting a lot of triggers, notification from so many brands today, right? So many apps, but you don't act at all. The reason is low motivation, and maybe hard to do activities which come together, so that there is no behavior that happens. And also, one more interesting thing that so there is also a concept of a habit, right? So behavior, when you do a particular behavior over a period of time, it converts into a habit. So what BJ Fogg talks about habit forming is that, and if you really want to actually imbibe a habit, you should look at uh, easy to do stuff. He has written also a book called Tiny Habits. There is another book by I think James Clear, called Atomic Habits. largely they talk about the similar concept and from BJ Fogg's model. So you take up something which is very easy to do. At this at the onset, you have low motivation. You really don't have high motivation to get started. If you really want to build something, take up something easy to do, which is on this part of the, so which is right bottom corner, right? And as you constantly start doing this activity, which is very easy to do, maybe you want to start exercise, maybe just give 5 minutes of walking every day, right? For example, once you do that, you feel a sense of accomplishment, right? So you're able to do this activity. So then once you feel a sense of accomplishment, your motivation goes up, right? And once you do that, then you move up this orange line that you see, right? So you take up something which is harder to do, and uh, right, and because your motivation is high, now you're able to actually do that. And then further, you feel accomplished, you feel better doing that, you go further up this orange line, and finally you are able to do a lot more, which is an activity which is hard to do because your motivation has grown from low to high during that time. So now you're able to say, go for a 1 hour gym session, and if you build this way, you can still go for a 1 hour gym session one day, but if you are building this way, you will retain it as a habit and you will not fall off. So that's the behavior model all about. When it comes to product development or product design, you could think of ability anything, right? So if I am talking about say a fitness app, right? And I'm supposed to do something every morning as a part of that behavior. So when you are mapping that user behavior, when you are trying to map the user journey, that he gets up in the morning, then he does this 3 steps, and then he goes and does this activity, right? So you would map this entire journey, and you think of how can I how can I make my action, right, or the behavior that the user needs to take easier at the same time, right? Can I remind people that yes, you have to wake up at 6? Can I remind someone that yes, please keep your shoes and your jogging tracks, whatever, in place before you go to sleep the previous night. So you can think of how do you make it easy. So another very good example of making easy to do in terms of ability is Netflix, right? Netflix wants you to binge. So and it wants you to move from episode to episode without as easily as possible. So it has taken off the next button, right? So you don't have to click on that button, you just wait and it moves on to the next episode. And by doing that, they have made it very easy to move on from episode 1 to episode 2, right? And you are getting into the binge mode for Netflix. So that's how. And motivation is something we will anyway talk about motivation a lot in the next few slides in this entire session. So we'll come to how can we increase motivation, or what leads to higher motivation, and what are the factors that we can build into a product to have higher motivation. I have covered this. Okay, so next we'll talk about flow theory. So very quickly, flow theory is something which talks about that if there is a challenge on the y axis and you see skills on the x axis. So as you increase your skills, if the challenge is not really commensurate with the skill, you will be in a boredom phase. And this is very common, right? And we all connect with that. So if you're in a work environment where you think that you really can do a lot, but then there is not enough great work, all you see is grunt work for you to do, you will feel bored at work, you will feel less engaged at work. Similarly, if you are thrown in a situation where your current skills don't really match up and the challenges look extremely high, you will get into an anxiety mode. So both boredom and anxiety are not great from a user behavior or user perspective, right? So both causes problem if your product causes anxiety or boredom. So the right part, or if you see this white part, right, so that's called flow channel. The reason why it is called flow channel is and what what it essentially means is that when the user is, as the skills increase, the challenges increase, the user is in a state of flow. So state of flow is when the user is engaged, the user is feeling accomplished, and the challenges are commensurate with my skills. So that's, so, and then, but what do we do with this flow theory, right? It's great. So how do we apply it in the product design? Interestingly, I think we have been using this in our product design. For a user, there are four phases, right? When you talk about gamification, we talk about four phases the users are in with respect to the product. So user starts with a discovery phase, which is the user is trying to figure out, should I really connect with your product? Should I really download your app, etc. Then he goes on to the onboarding phase, where user first time interacts with your product, he downloads your app, he interacts with your app, and then gets onto a scaffolding and end game phase. So scaffolding is essentially user knows all about the app. He comes to your app on a whatever regular interval. He uses your app, and he is very much used to, and he knows your product. And the last stage is where the user is essentially getting into a stage where he knows everything and there is not enough challenge for it. And it's the end game where the user would essentially exit your product, right? So let's come to onboarding, right? So onboarding, what do you want a user to do during onboarding, right? You don't want the user to go through a very complicated experience. You want the user to go through a very simple experience, a easy experience, and feel accomplished about it, right? So that his motivation goes up, right? So please, so all of these theories are related in some way. And uh, you will, once you kind of understand this better and go through it on at your end, you will see that they are somewhere related. So as you increase your skills, your motivation goes up. So uh, during onboarding, I want the user, handhold the user, take him through an experience which is easy, which is short, and make him feel accomplished, right? So low skills because he doesn't know the product, small challenge, right? And that's how he accomplishes the activity, and that's how he feel accomplished. And then he's ready to move on to the next step or next set of screens, however you might want to do that. So that's how you would think of flow theory and product design. And this is the hook model for habits. So this is a very common model which uh, product designers look at, and this is written with product design in mind. This is by Neer Ayal, and he has written a book also on this, which is called Hooked. So this model talks about trigger. See, again, trigger is a word which was again there in BJ Fogg's model, right? Action is nothing but behavior. Variable reward. So reward essentially causes that motivation, right? Why variable? We'll come to it when we discuss octalysis. So in detail, so the variable word reward is quite important. The word variable, and then finally an investment. So to take an example of Facebook or WhatsApp, so Facebook sends you a prompt or a trigger because your friend has uploaded a photo. You go ahead and you take an action. You like your friend's photo. Uh, what you get in reward is, you know, you might so the reward essentially with respect to Facebook is you see a next set of posts, right, on your Facebook feed. So and variable is because you really don't know what is the next image that you're going to see on your feed. That's the variable reward. And the investment is the like or a photo upload that you do. So with investment, your affinity towards the product goes up. That's why investment is important. Also, triggers are, he has mentioned triggers are external and internal. Internal is when the product is not sending you a notification or an email or anything. Internal trigger is when it is essentially an habit, and you are bored, you think of opening up Facebook, right? Or you think of opening up Gmail. So that's an internal trigger. Your boredom is an internal trigger in this case. So that's all about the behavior models, at least for tonight. Uh, at this point, I would like to pause, and if there are any questions, because now we will get on to, I wanted to check how we are doing with the time. Okay, I think we're running very slow. Okay. Any questions at this point? Because then we'll have to run really fast to complete this. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about Octalysis as a framework. So what Octalysis talks about or states in short is that, so there are 8 core drives which drives behavior, or which are motivating core drives, which essentially motivates people. And what I have found is that this is essentially very comprehensive in terms of mapping or affecting user behavior. Hence we talk about Octalysis a little bit in detail in this. So what you see is, please ignore in this what you see written on the outer thing, which is in small fonts. Look at the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And these are the 8 code drives. We will go one by one. So essentially it states that you need one or more drives to affect behavior. If there are none of the code drives, there is no behavior that is happening in any experience. And it could be a product experience, it could be a real life experience, anything. So with that in mind, let's get on to the code drives very quickly. The first code drive is epic meaning and calling. So epic meaning and calling is essentially about doing something which is bigger than ourselves, right? Which is giving up yourself for a cause. So for example, Wikipedia, where the editors edit, every day they come back from work and they edit whatever number, for 2 to 3 hours, they correct stuff, they create new pages for Wikipedia for free. No one is paying them to do that, but they do that because they believe they need to protect human knowledge. They need to make protect human knowledge. They need to make human knowledge free. They need to make human knowledge unbiased, and that's why they do it. So, and that is what this whole, and that's what they're calling, and their calling is driving this behavior. No one is paying them to do that. There is no reward at the end of the day. Similarly, I mean, without getting into Patagonia, you would see a lot of these epic meaning and calling in branding exercises and marketing exercises, right? Where you would a brand would try to associate themselves with a larger cause, and Patagonia is one of the examples. Some do it very well. They merge it with their business, and some, in many cases, you see a shallow implementation of it, and that's where the problem is. A lot of products you don't see that this thing, but just slapping over a narrative with your product may not always work. But that's the probably a first way to think about it, that can we build a narrative in our product where people find more meaning while they are doing this activity, right? So that's how you can think about epic meaning and calling when you talk about building it into a product. You can one good example is Waze. You can look at Waze as an example in your leisure time. Second thing is CD2 is code drive 2. It is about accomplishment and development, right? So also look back to the game, right? So you can, if you look back to the elements that we talked about in a game, all of these are connected, right? Accomplishment and development is essentially about your mastery in something, right? You are getting skillful in something, and that is making you accomplished, and that is making you do that behavior again and again. So a very interesting, and this is one of the easiest way to implement, and you see it all over the place, which is you see points, you see badges, you see stickers. This is the example from Paytm. You see these stickers you get if you pay someone, you get these Paytm first points. On the right, there's an example from LinkedIn. So it says, it clearly states that your profile strength is intermediate. It shows a very nice horizontal bar, color coded, to tell you that where you are in terms of your progression. And very nicely done. It tells you that if you have to move from level 1 to level 4 to level 5, this is what you can do. So it shows your current status. So that's your motivating factor, and then it gives a CTA, right, which tells you add skills. So if you see a lot of design, if you're thinking about, forget about gamification, games, anything. So a lot of design, if you see, this is how it was done, that you have an action button, which we in gamification world people call it desired action. Desired action is add skills, and you tell people why they should add skills, right? uh, why they should add skills, because that will help them move from level 5 to level 6. And mind you, add skill is important for LinkedIn, because LinkedIn want you to add skills, so that obviously they want those data so that they can create a better platform. They can attract more recruiters, etc., etc., right? So for LinkedIn, that's a business metric, that they want more people to add skills to their profile. And adding skills becomes a desired action in this case. And your the profile strength, the way they are showing, that is the game element in this case. Empowerment of creativity and feedback. Not many examples do you see on this. However, so, and I have not found too many products which does this in a good way. However, you find it, lot of it in games. For example, chess. So, or for example, so chess is where you have infinite options in order to, you have infinite choice. You can make your own choice, and you can make your own strategy, and you play that game. No one is dictating you, and you are empowered to use your creativity. But obviously, you get feedback, right? That how you are doing. Uh, it's also a matter of choice. And same thing with, say, Scrabble. If you think of even for example, for cricket, right? So there's a lot of strategy that goes behind how you would play a game. The A lot of strategy would go behind how the pitch is today, how the weather is today, whom to take, whom not to take, right? So there's a lot of things that is going on in the background. And also while you are playing, you are constantly changing your strategy based on the feedback that you get from the score, from the other teams. So we'll come to it, how Google Pay had done something around choice, and in the last section. Ownership and possession is essentially about our innate urge to accumulate stuff. We accumulate stamps, we accumulate cards, and also, so that's one aspect of it, which you can see an example of Paytm Holy campaign, which is live right now. The other thing is, if I have spent time building something, it is more valuable to me than anyone else, right? So personalization is a real good example. And when you're personalizing an experience, when your experience is personalized by the product, so you tend to be with that product also, because this is yours, right? You own the playlist. So Discover Weekly is a very good example of from Spotify, and it causes higher stickiness. So people tend to stick to the platform because it is personalized for me. It is also called Alfred effect. So these are just names, I mean, nothing to do with that, but that causes people to stay in the experience and not exit out from the experience. Social influence and relatedness. Again, this is very, very simple. This is how Facebook works, right? This is why Facebook, WhatsApp, all of these work, all social media works. This is an example from Strava, where they have built a community where people are collaborating each other, encouraging each other to do more, right? Do more of the activity. So please, and again, please keep in mind that you want people to do certain activities, certain actions, and the collaboration is helping the group to do those actions. And also competition, right? So competition also does the same thing. And it is also about your social influence. How do I look to others, right? And that makes me take those actions, take those, complete that behavior. Paperboat is again another example. In India, people would know how they created a brand out of nostalgia. The drinks are not at all of the same, different, obviously a different category. So they kind of created a blue ocean out of, and a large market out of nowhere by associating their drinks with memories. And because it is my memory, because it is it reminds me of my school days, reminds me of that. I feel more attached to the brand. It's not an example of a digital product, but we could create those relatedness in a product also. Scarcity and impatience, again, this is what we talked. Yeah, so this is scarcity and impatience is essentially very simple, right? We crave for things that we can't have, right? Uh, so a real example was from a Google Diwali campaign. This created so much of action, so much of talk, so much of social post, etc., around scarcity of the Rangoli stamp, which Google had launched during their Diwali campaign 2019. So because it was so scarce, people actually want to have it, and that causes behavior to happen. A limited time offer, which is a very normal thing, which you see that only because it is limited, you say that sale is only for 2 days, right? And because it is limited, because it is scarce, you are more inclined to take action. You are more inclined to buying. Unpredictability and curiosity. So this is essentially the variable reward that we talked about in hook model. To get into this, so just look at example of Google Pay scratch cards versus Paytm cashback, which was there before. So Paytm used to say 10% cashback, which is not variable reward, right? Google scratch cards were much more engaging because you really don't know when you are taking the action what you will get, what value you will get, or how much you will get, or whether you will get anything or not. That causes a more obsessive behavior, which is same as slot machines, which is same as gambling as such, and that causes an obsessive behavior and user take action. Loss and avoidance again is a powerful one, but a simple one where we hold on to our stuff and we don't want to lose something, even if there is a chance of getting something in return. Meaning, so if you see an example of the Duolingo app, and I saw someone talking about Duolingo also on the chat. So they have 8-day streak. You have spent 8 days every day coming on to Duolingo, and now they are saying that you are losing that 8-day streak, right? And just by stating it this way, that you are going to lose your streak, they are monetizing their app. So this is also and this is a powerful motivator also, because this is also which causes people to stay in a broken relationship. Just because you have, this is sunk cost prison, just because you have invested so much in a relationship, you would want to stay back in a relationship because it is, you have spent 3 years of your time with that person, right? And also what this causes is you don't want to experience product to product, you don't want to move from product A to product B. So you want to remain in your same status quo. Status quo is what you want to be, because you are afraid of losing what you have with product A. So that causes stickiness. But again, if you are from the product B side, you need to really think, how can I make people move from product A to product B, and how would people, and what stronger motivation that I need to bring in so that people switch from A to B. And this is the other example of Scriptbox. Anyway, I want to talk about it, but maybe for the sake of time, let's move on. So the Scriptbox, they have not implemented as loss and avoidance. They have implemented it more, as of now, they have implemented it more as a sense of progression. So it's the same game mechanic, which is streak design, but on the left, this is about loss and avoidance. On the right, the experience that you see is essentially about sense of progress, which is CD2. Right, so they are in telling people that there's so much to go, and this is how the journey is laid out. So you are supposed to invest in your SIP in Jan, Feb, March, etc., etc. So two different, same game element, but really targeting two different motivations. Okay, so the way octalysis is there, right? So it is put in a octagon for a reason. So if you look at the left side of it, so first let's talk about left brain and right brain. So left brain is essentially extrinsic motivation, on the right side is essentially forget the word brain, but that's really not important. So left and right, let's talk about that. So left is essentially your logical side of your brain. You are more uh, encouraged by rewards. You are more encouraged by collecting stuff. You are more encouraged by a physical reward at the end of the experience, right? You are doing something because you will get something at the end of it. That's the logical or the left side of the experience. And generally it is seen that it is very easy to build, people build, look at left side and build experiences around that. uh, However, it can get boring and people might exit out of the product once you have got the reward. The right brain or the intrinsic behavior is, motivation is what, that you don't need a reward at the end of it. You the journey is the reward, meaning you don't need a reward to hang out with your friends, right? Uh, so there is no reward in that of it. You enjoy the experience of doing that activity. Similarly with empowerment, if you're playing a game, you're strategizing, you're enjoying that. You don't probably need a reward at the end of it, and the reward is not what is driving you to come again and play that game. Similar with unpredictability, if you're playing with slot machines, you may not be getting anything out of it. You might be losing money at the end of your experience, but because this was unpredictable, you went on playing with it, right? So the experience is what is driving you, on the right side of it. So uh, so the reason why you're talking about this is, when you're building experience, think of both left brain and right brain. Only one probably will not help you create a experience which lasts longer. White hat, black hat, again, white hat is something where the experience, it is a powerful tools or powerful motivators. However, there is no urgency in it, right? So you are okay, you are seeing some progress, yes, you are probably motivated to do something, but there is no urgency in terms of taking action. When it comes to black hat, which is the bottom thing, which is scarcity, avoidance, and unpredictability, there is a lot of urgency for you to take action. However, this also causes a lot of obsession or addictive behavior. So again, when you are thinking about experience, you can think about experience that you want people to do something urgently. Please use all the black hat motivation, but please marry it with white hat, because people will feel obsessed. People will feel guilty at the end of these, and they might exit out of the experience. So when you are building, think of both white hat and black hat gamification in your product. Uh, Example of black hat, we will probably see right now. Okay, so very quickly, this is the Google Pay Diwali campaign. Just to recollect whatever we have discussed. If you see, you will see all of these coming together. A lot of things coming together in the Google Pay campaign, and this was very, very popular. And this really helped Google to be number one when it comes to P2P UPI payments. I think so. If you see, Google has a fixed reward, which is 251. You get rupees 251 once you collect 5 stamps. It also has a variable reward attached to it, which is you get a chance to win 1 lakh. It talks about just 2 stamps to go. It gives you a sense of progress that you have come this far, and a little bit of scarcity that, okay, you have to go 2 more. And then there's a collection set, right? Because you have to collect all these 5 stamps. So you are innately encouraged to complete your set, right? Unless it is complete, you are continuously doing that behavior to complete that set. There is also a daily limit, so there's a rule attached to it. There's some constraint, so that there's a set of scarcity of it. So you cannot just go on playing it as much as possible. And you have a limit of daily limit. So daily limit, what happens is, you come every day, right? You do 15 times and the limit is over, and you come every day. So that causes people to come again and again onto back to the experience. So it's also called appointment dynamics, because you are having an appointment and you're coming every day to do that. Here is a little bit of a choice strategy, not so much in terms of strategy, but you have a choice that how do you want to make this collection set yours. So you can choose any of the 3 options, and that creates a sense of empowerment. That creates a sense of choice, that I am ready to take. I am willing. I am empowered to take any of the actions, and people can if the experience is even much more nuanced, you can think of, people can come up with strategies that how do I get these 5 stamps, whether Diwali scanner is the better way to do it, or gifting or requesting is the better way to do it. So people can come up with those strategies. Again, they have married social gifting with with Diwali, obviously connecting gifting season and gifting here. So this is a social influence at play, uh, which is core drive 5 in our case. Very important call out, and this is the last slide, is that if you see the desired actions are in place. So what Google is stating, that more you pay friends and businesses with Google Play, the more stamps you collect, right? So finally, all of that you are doing to get desired actions, and desired actions from the users, which will lead to the user final business matrix, right? Which is more transactions through Google Pay UPI. Okay, so this is how you would, look at an experience using Octalis's framework. So if you see, we have already discussed, if you see, this is predominantly black hat, meaning you don't see a lot of meaning, empowerment, and accomplishment. You see a lot of social influence, unpredictability, scarcity, ownership. However, this campaign was a very, the problem with predominantly black hat design is it may not work in the long run. However, for Google, this campaign was only for a month or so during the Diwali. So the experience, even though it was predominantly black hat, it really worked for them. So that's how it is. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Manas. Although we are already on time, but I think we can take 2-3 questions.
So do you want me to look at the questions which were?
Yes, there are a few questions I can see in chat section.
Okay, you want to address those? Okay. Yep. Can you help me pick?
Yes, sure.
Because
we can start with this Ranganathan's question. How can this be adopted in an e-commerce for both B2B and B2C?
Okay, so if you look at e-commerce as such, so if you see even Amazon, right? So you see reviews, right? So reviews is essentially looking at social influence and relatedness, right? What others are saying about the product, that is motivating me to choose a particular product or not choose a particular product, right? Similarly, there is also a trend these days, which is trending, and which is not even trending, which has gone really huge uh, in China, which is social commerce, and you're also seeing certain companies doing that in a good way, and influencer-led commerce, right? So you are buying a product because someone is saying, influencer is saying that this is what the product is about, and they are influencing your decision of buying that product. So that's the way to look at it from a purely e-commerce B2C or a B2B point of view. And there are also, you could do a lot of hacks while in the product design, right? So you would see a lot of people put, when you do a multi-step journey, if you look at Airbnb, or even if a checkout journey of a lot of e-com websites, you would see multi-steps, right? So they would tell you that step 1, do this, step 2, and step 3. So you are told prior that there are 3 steps to go, and with every step, as you are able to do one step, you see a green tick, right? So that's a sense of accomplishment that you get by doing a step, and you are motivated to do the next step. So instead of getting you all blind into the entire checkout experience, people want to put some steps to it to tell you that yes, that you have to accomplish 3 steps, and you have accomplished 1 and only 2 more to go. So that's also a sense of progression which people give during a checkout journey. Also, there are other things where, if you see, there are flags which says hot, the flag which says low stock alert. So these are essentially creating a sense of scarcity that there is low stock, so please go ahead and purchase this because we will very soon run out of it. So those are the hacks people use with respect to a very e-retail experience.
Thanks. I hope this helps, Ranganathan. So there are few questions around specific industry specific questions. How can we implement gamification in this? Since we are short on time, I think we can skip this for now. Next one is from Vishwa. What kind of drivers would you suggest for a B2B app made for CXOs to analyze business data? Business goal is equals to increase insight consumption on the go and learn what users want. Internal trigger is high.
B2B app made for CXOs to analyze business data. So is this like a reporting? I'm really not sure what is the experience. CXOs, I understand.
Yeah, it's
It's
more
a
of a business insight consumption. Yeah, hi.
Yes, please.
Yeah, hi, Mars. So this is more of a business insight consumption. So maybe something like a Power BI or something, like so.
Okay.
So basically, assuming that we are making an app for these CXOs, and although there is a high internal trigger, now you want the app to learn what the user wants, right? So it's more of not exactly giving what they already know, and then it's more of what they don't know, right? So basically you need to learn what the user wants, and the actions which they do on the app is much more interesting than what just be giving it to the user, right? So in order to make basically the actions on the app, so there's an internal trigger which is high, but then we need to provide some external trigger so that they utilize the app in the way probably like we want it to be used. So what kind of drivers? So you suggested certain kind of drivers in the Octalysis framework, right? So it would be interesting if you can throw some insights on what would be more interesting to use in this use case.
Tough to comment on the fly. So the CXOs would not be very hands-on on using different tools, right? So I think if you are looking at your if you go back to probably BJ Fogg's model, right? So where you would want their ability to when you say internal trigger is high, so I'm assuming what you mean is the motivation is already high because they really want that data.
Yes.
So the motivation is high. So your play is on the ability side, right? So
okay.
And so how can you make it more easier for them to consume that data, consume that insight, right? So it could be it could be the way the data is there. It could be the data is always available on an app, or is it I have to go somewhere to access that data, or is it that there are even the app I have to open it and do it? Can it be sent as a notification that okay, I look at X data every day? Instead of that, I get a personalized notification that the revenue for today is X. So I don't have to do anything. I see it in my notification itself, right? So the ability to consume that data can be made much easier to do. So that's what I can
more of a
at this
notification
time.
push. Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Next one is from Yasha.
Yeah.
She's asking any resources to learn these frameworks.
Yeah, sure. So just Google it. So you can look at Octalysis. Just Google. So Octalysis, if you see, there's a lot of things around Octalysis. You can join their Octalysis Prime program. You will find a lot of content on BJ Fogg YouTube. Go to YouTube, you'll see a lot of content by videos by BJ Fogg. You can, if you go to talks at Google on YouTube, you will see a discussion by Yukai on Octalysis framework. I think he did this. He had this speech on at Google, some office in Google in 2016. I think that's so. So there's a lot of content on that. There is no single place, but and then there are a lot of books to read. You can look at Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Then there is a book for product managers. I think there is a book by Stephen Wendell, which talks about behavior design and products, which marries both. So that's the way to look at. And there's so much more. There are so many books. There is Hooked as a book. There is Atomic Habits by James Clear. There is Tiny Habits by. So if you're thinking about habit building products, you could look at that. So there is enough thing if you want to dig into it.
We can take one last question. This one is from Aditya. Can we connect gamification with loyalty program, or both are different?
I think absolutely. Yeah, the gamification is loyalty is essentially some gamification. It is a gamification of your say e-commerce website, right? And they give loyalty points. So these points are essentially helping you to driving your next purchase. So however, most loyalty programs are most of it doesn't work. There's a reason why it doesn't work, because it is predicated on simple fixed rewards, right? Which is, you do this 100, you buy for 100 rupees, you get 5% off, 5% as reward points, right? However, you could look at there is a famous I think Starbucks loyalty program is famous because they created, along with that, so you get, I think you get some stars every time you do a purchase. And you see your so the visualization is such that you see the stars fall into your like cup, and slowly the cup fills up every time you make a purchase. And then once the single cup is full, you get a free coffee, right? So by doing that, what they're doing is, it's just not points, but they are also creating a sense of progression and a scarcity, right? So you are waiting to see when will the cup will fill up to the brim, right? So that creates that. So but one can create lot more, bring in lot more creativity in a loyalty program, which is not seen in general. So give users more choice, but again, it's really tough to implement. That's why probably you don't see that. Give user more choice to earn, give user more choice to burn, etc.
Okay, thank you, Manav. Thanks for the answer.
Sure.
Okay, so I think we can wind up the session here. I know there are a lot of questions in chat section. We can maybe put up all these questions on our Slack community, and as and when Manas gets time, he can answer these questions. I'm adding link to the Slack community in chat section. So that's all. Thanks a lot, Manas, for taking our time. I hope everyone would have got a lot of key insights and takeaways from this session.
Yep, I hope so.
Yeah, thank you, Manas. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. And for those who missed this session, we'll publish recording of this session on our YouTube channel. I'll share link with all of you in our weekly newsletter, so you all can stay updated with all of these recordings. And for more updates, you can join our Slack community. We keep on sharing updates about these sessions. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Manas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.